A round of applause for Andrew, because without him we wouldn't even be here. Well, I'm Jane Dahmen, as Andrew said, and tonight my guest is Michel Droge. Michel believes that art heals and connects us to others. As a painter, printmaker, and educator, Michel is motivated by themes such as climate change and the opioid epidemic. But their paintings, infused as they are with scientific research, are nevertheless lyrical and mysteriously beautiful. They tap into the human spirit and reel us in. Tonight we will learn more about the backstory of these soulful paintings. Michel Droge graduated from Oberlin College in 1980 with a degree in art and psychology, and in 2010 from Maine College of Art with an MFA. Michel worked at the Styria, is that right? Mm-hmm. Studios in New York City as a master printer for Donald Judd, Robert Morris, Robert Rauschenberg, Alex Katz, and others. Michel, welcome to Talking Art in Maine.
Thank you, Jane. Thanks, everybody.
You have some fans out there. Well, I'd like to begin. You grew up in Boston.
Yes.
And did your family, were they interested in art? I'm sure they were very literate and well-read, because you like to study things and read a lot.
Yeah.
When did you know you were going to become an artist?
I think as soon as I knew what one was. So,
Really?
Yeah, really, really young.
Were your parents artists, or was anyone in your family interested in the arts?
Yeah, I mean, both my parents were interested in the arts and in literature and poetry. My mom actually wanted to be an artist, and her dream was to move to New York City and be an artist in Greenwich Village.
Really?
And she always painted and drew, and she took me to museums, and yeah, so yeah, it was definitely my mom. Yeah. Who was like taking me to lots of museums and looking at art and getting me lessons and, you know, encouraging me to draw and paint.
So she must be very happy right now.
I hope so.
Yeah. And when did the current issues of the day become so fascinating to you? I mean, maybe just because you're living through it, but the environmental problems and these other current issues.
Well, I think I was, I mean, I've always been inspired by the environment as a source, mm-hmm. you know, as a place for inspiration and for everything. Yeah. I think that because my work was engaging with the environment, with maps and things like that, that it was just kind of like the next step is, you know, what's happening out there. So mm-hmm. climate change and environmental issues, pretty much since I was in high school, mm-hmm. When I was becoming more and more aware of them mm-hmm. then, mm-hmm. you know, so a long time ago. And then more recently, I think when I was teaching at Maine College of Art, I was asked to do some freshman and sophomore classes, and they could be whatever I wanted. And so I started doing some public engagement classes with local conservation groups and looking at climate change, so working with the Island Institute and the Audubon Society and other places to do work that engaged me and my students in more relevant sort of
wonderful,
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you've done a lot of teaching your whole life. That's what you do. Yeah. You paint and you teach.
Pretty much. Yeah. Recently, work in museums. I mean, I do a little bit of everything. Well,
let's look at the work. This first one is called Sanctuary. It was painted in 2007.
Yep.
It's 56 by 72 inches. And, well, Sanctuary, place of refuge. Why did you paint something like this?
I needed it.
You needed it. You needed a place of refuge.
Yeah. So actually the houses in this is unusual. This is sort of like a transitional piece for me. I used to do a lot of work that had drawings and writing, like actual words in the work, and I was also interested in maps when I was doing this, and I was doing a lot of emotional maps.
Yeah, where did the maps interest come from? Who knows?
Yeah, from always, you know, we traveled a lot when I was a kid, and we were on boats a lot, and so we were looking at nautical maps, and I've always been interested in maps, and I think my dad actually collected a lot of maps, and there were always maps on in the house, like framed, like antique maps, and I think they're beautiful, and they also are another way to look at the environment and look at where we are, and I'm really interested in where we are emotionally and where we are physically as sort of as a conjunction, so bringing the two together. So that's what this piece is about. It's about finding sanctuary, and it's actually a map of a bunch of different houses that I lived in around that time, from like 1995 to 2000, so like a 10-year period. And I was in the process of moving again when I made this piece, and I was looking for sanctuary. I was looking for a home, basically.
Your work is so personal and so fun to hear about how you got to the pieces, because
Thank you.
They do draw you in, but it's you can bring your own story to it as a viewer, and without talking to you, we wouldn't know all this. So it's really fascinating to hear about how you get there. Okay, let's see. I've got the clicker here. Okay, this is the piece from your Requiem series. This was your thesis, right?
Yes.
So, and this is called The Day Before You Were Born. Is it?
No, actually, this is called Requiem.
Oh.
Requiem 1. I think like all of these from the series are Requiem 1 through 6 or 7.
Oh, okay. I don't know where I got that.
The Day Before You Were Born is a drawing. It's a graphite drawing from a little bit later than this time.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I had
That's
the wrong
okay.
name. Yeah. Okay, so you conducted a series of interviews with people who had been shipwrecked and who had been lost at sea or had survived storms.
Yes, that was, yeah.
So that fascinated you.
Yeah, that was like when I first moved to Maine. I was in grad school here, and I was working on my thesis, and I was really interested in, I was so grateful to be back on the coast and be near the ocean, and I was very inspired by the sublime and sublime writing, and I was interested in how the ocean can be both a place of abundance and also can take a lot. It can be very dangerous.
Terrifying,
and
yeah.
I thought a lot about what it would be like to work on the sea and make your living there and make money from the ocean and, you know, find food and all of that and like have it be this place of abundance, but also a place where you could at any day die.
Around.
And thinking about like Winslow Homer's paintings and drawings, his etchings, and I was really struck by a few of his drawings that are of the women who were mending nets on the side of the, you know, on the beach or on the rocks, and then these boats in the background and in you know in the horizon, and a couple of them were erased, and I thought that was really interesting that like you know some sailors don't make it back, and that the women often dealt with their anxiety, or the family members would deal with their anxiety about this potential loss by
making things,
by mending nets, and
sure.
So I was really struck by that idea and wanted to do some research. So I went down east and tried to interview people. I didn't, you know, I did talk to a few people, and I definitely learned a lot about the coast and about more remote areas of down East Maine. And I talked to a few fishermen and, you know, got really inspired.
Amazing how you go out into the world and look into these things that then lead to these paintings. Cameron Shaw said of your work, despite the current willingness to overshare daily, Droge's paintings serve as a reminder that some human experiences remain almost beyond linguistic communications, mysteriously unspeakable in their gravity. Unspeakable in their gravity.
Yeah, that's a beautiful passage.
Yeah. Well, what you write is beautiful too. I love to read what you've written. Now, was this when you went and got into a sensory deprivation tank to see what it felt like? Talk about that.
Oh my God.
I read that in your thesis.
Yeah, that was part of my research.
I was so impressed. Yeah. I thought, how did she do that? I couldn't do it. I would get claustrophobic.
It was interesting. It was really interesting. So I was
really,
yeah, I was researching sort of what it feels like to be in a liminal space, basically, and It had a lot to do with the sublime, and it had a lot to do with just feeling, just wanting to feel what that felt like, to not have a skin, basically. And there was a guy he was in Falmouth at the time, and he had some tanks in his house, and you could pay him money, but I was in grad school, I didn't have any money, so I brought him a flower.
And then he put you in this deprivation tank.
Yeah, and he let me, his name was Neil, gosh, I wish I could remember.
He was
his
crazy.
last name. It was amazing, and it was like
I want to read you what you wrote.
Okay.
It's so good. This is her in the deprivation tank. For the first few minutes of the sensory deprivation experience, the awareness of my body was intensely amplified. I could hear my heartbeat, my breath, and every sensation on my skin seemed magnified. After about 20 minutes, my awareness of the physical senses subsided and my attention turned into imaginative and meditative thoughts. The experience was intense and at moments frightening. I felt at one with my environment, yet simultaneously estranged and alone. I noticed directly upon re-entry into my daily world that normal stimuli were greatly magnified. My new awareness of how much stimuli we block out and are desensitized to astonished me. In taking this information into the studio, it seemed necessary to me that my paintings must offer the most minimal amount of information in order to stir the imagination of the viewer and allow for a meditative and inward awareness to gain strength. Now that is beautiful.
Thank you.
So you got a lot out of it.
Yeah. And that's what this whole body of work is about.
Yes.
Just a little bit of rope, and then the rest is like, hopefully you don't know where you're standing in this.
You like that moment of confusion and not knowing.
Yeah.
I think good artists like that, because that's where the change begins and things start to grow. You know what I think of? The earth, in order to grow a plant, has to crumble and fall apart for the plant to make it up through.
Exactly.
And that's like what you're talking about.
Exactly.
That moment of confusion and sometimes the depth of despair even.
Yeah, that place of unknowing is often the most fertile,
Okay, moving on here. Now this series is called Heraclitus, and I notice you love to read literature. It affects your work a lot.
Yeah.
So I loved reading about all this. So talk a little bit about
this. So this piece, do you know the name of this piece?
No,
I think this is called Origins, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know the name of any of these Heraclitus pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a series I did, actually in a place of really not being clear what I was doing. So I was reading Hesiod, who writes about like, he wrote the Theogony, which is all the like sort of birthing stories of the gods, and about how things come out of chaos, and he writes a lot about chaos. And Heraclitus, who is like 800 AD, I think he was writing, a philosopher, and a kind of grumpy old man, I think he was. And he's the guy who wrote, like, if you
can't step into the same river twice.
Yeah, right.
And he also said the only thing that's permanent is change.
Right, yeah. So he said some stuff that we still talk about today. We still use these sayings today, but so I was inspired by them, and I put a bunch of pieces of paper up on the wall and taped them all off, and started drawing and then erasing. So that's, these were all inspired by that work.
Well, you wrote some things on your website, which is very interesting, by the way, your website. It's full of good things.
Thank you.
You said, everything flows and nothing abides, everything gives way and nothing stays fixed. That was, you call him Heraclitus, I call him Heraclitus. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know which way. You're probably right.
No, you're probably right. And, and then another thing you wrote in there that was his saying, the soul is the vaporization out of which everything is composed.
Yeah.
Isn't that lovely?
Great, yeah, so great. Yeah.
And then here's another one that you wrote that he was one of his thoughts. Human nature is not rational. There is intelligence only in what encompasses him.
Yeah.
So it's more feeling and emotion as well as, is that what he means?
I guess,
yeah.
But human nature is definitely not rational.
Human nature is not, no. We know that it's more intuitive. Okay, out of discord comes fairest harmony. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so true.
Yeah.
If you really think about it. We don't think about it, so we think there's something wrong. But discord we need that.
Yeah, that's how we figure stuff out.
That's how we figure. We have to go through painful episodes in our life. We've all been there.
Yeah.
And then we realize growth comes from that.
Yeah, the struggle.
I love these thoughts. And you do let literature affect your painting a lot.
Yeah, well, I need it. I mean,
need
that's like what I make work from.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Okay, this is called, and oh, by the way, each series leads to the next, you told me.
Yeah.
And so you'll be working on a series and then you'll think, oh, I think I'll go in this direction or whatever.
Yeah, making work from work, basically.
Yeah.
One thing leads to the next.
It's a great way to work.
Yeah.
So this is called Tiny Catastrophes. And this is February.
Yes, yeah.
It's an etching in aqua tint, and it's 8 inches by 15, not very big.
No.
And it looks like it could be the edge of a field that should have been field, but it's water.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Now, is it supposed to be scary or not?
You mean, like, is it supposed to be kind of between field and water? Like,
in that horrible place. I don't like it. You know?
I'm like interested in sea smoke, actually, in
It's
this.
sea smoke.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's an interesting observation of yours.
Well, I thought it was water, and so I was very upset.
I like what you said. Yeah, we'll go with that. It's
okay.
It used to be water, but now it's a field.
Okay. So talk about your studies with the Gulf of Maine and with the Island Institute and how global warming is impacting us in Maine. I just heard that the Gulf of Maine is the fastest warming body of water in the planet.
Yeah.
On the planet.
Yeah, they've known that for a little while now.
Boy.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it because it's shallow, or is it the Gulf Stream, or what is it?
I think it's got something to do with the Gulf Stream. I'm not 100% sure why. I don't know.
So talk about your scientific studies. You love to study about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have been moving away from studying climate change, but I was very engaged in it. I was teaching a class on climate change. I was teaching a few classes on climate change and studying the impact. And I was taking my students out into the field like out in the world to think about. I was really struck with the idea that we couldn't see what was like having this huge impact on us.
Right.
And so, as artists, especially, a lot of what we do is we visually represent what we can't see. So, and I know that doesn't really make sense.
No,
but
you
it's
make
really
visual
true.
what is not seen.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Or what
and
we
you're
can't
like
talk
the canary
about.
in the coal mine. A lot of artists, because they can see ahead, or they're not afraid to.
Yeah. With climate change, I mean, what I did was I took my students out and I said, these are the things that are happening that we can't see, like rising sea level and warming waters and new species in our waters right now, and ocean acidification, and so let's talk about how it's going to impact like the fishing industry and the communities that are living on islands. And so we researched together, because I don't like to do research alone. So we researched together like what was happening, and we went to the Gulf of Maine Research Institute, and we went to the Island Institute, and we actually then traveled around the islands to sort of imagine what it was going to look like, and what it was going to feel like, and how the fishermen and the other industries that are making a living off of the ocean were going to be impacted. So
yeah,
and then
because the islands will be first to go.
Yeah, well, that's what I figured. Yeah. So
you said my goal is if people have an emotional connection to the painting, they might do something about it. So you wanted to show what maybe people couldn't see yet.
Yeah, well, and I was also I was interested in bringing students out to have an emotional connection to the land. Because if you walk around and spend time drawing and paying attention to something, usually you're going to feel something.
Yeah.
And to bring students out and have just do that with them, it inspired them to do more of it.
And they then have an appreciation for what's going on around them.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. What do you mean when you say you want to create a space where people can contemplate ideas?
So rather, I guess that's where like being an abstract painter comes in.
Yeah.
So rather than force-feeding ideas down somebody's throat, I'm much more interested in like just creating a space where, you know, whatever comes up.
Right.
You know, it doesn't have to be what I'm thinking about. What I'm thinking about is one thing you can think about, but there could be, you know, hopefully the painting is engaging enough that you'll want to stand there and look at it or be with it. And if that painting creates that kind of a space for anybody, even if it's 5 minutes outside of like whatever doing is, then that's, you know, then my mission is accomplished. So
That's nice. This is called Aurora Changes Everything. Aurora is what, dawn?
Well, yeah.
But the Aurora Borealis, are you talking
Both,
about?
yeah. Both. Aurora being the goddess of dawn, and also, yeah.
So Aurora changes everything. You had a thought there.
Yeah. I had a few thoughts there. One of them is, so I was living in upstate New York, and not when I made this, but a while ago, and I saw the Aurora Borealis like accidentally. I didn't know I was going to see it. I don't know if anybody knows they're going to see it when they see it.
Yeah, they wait for it and don't see it, and then when they least expect it.
It's such a shock, and I had a kind of tough night, and I was sitting outside in my car, and then I was like decided to go inside, and I was like walking in, and I looked up at the sky, and it was like crazy. It was just like changing colors, and it was being nuts, and I didn't know what it was.
Oh, so that's what you mean changes everything.
Yeah, and it was a really pivotal time in my life. So that's part of it, but then also Aurora the goddess, you know.
Well, also
the morning changing everything, and
also that time of day, the dawn,
right.
and the dusk. It's pregnant with things that we think about from the imagination.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but when I wake up in the morning, before I'm fully awake, sometimes I get ideas that that are good for my art or whatever. And at night, the same thing.
Yeah.
Before you fall asleep, there's that time when it's almost
that
dark.
liminal time. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a new day is like a new promise, right? So it could be anything.
Yeah. Now this one is pretty literal.
Yeah.
There's no way we don't know what this is.
There were a lot of these really literal paintings in this series. Yeah.
Okay, I only picked one because I'm more interested in your abstract work just because it's, I don't know what's behind it.
Yeah, I was never going to show these actually, and then they ended up having a show. So I did show them, and there's, people know them.
Yeah.
They're these really little tiny paintings.
Oh, these are little. This one's 30, I thought 36
This
by
one's bigger, yeah,
okay.
it's bigger.
Milkweed.
Yeah, but the little literal ones,
okay.
those are all really tiny, and they're just sort of sketches.
Okay.
About like huge problems.
Yeah, little sketches of huge problems. Okay, well, we'll go into the next.
That one was milkweed.
What about milkweed?
It was like exploding milkweed,
Okay.
just wanting milkweed to live.
Okay.
I was worried about milkweed.
Okay. We're worried about lots of things these days.
Yeah.
All right, this is called the Nocturnal series, and this one is called Circadian, which is the 24-hour cycle.
Yeah. Sleep cycle.
Sleep cycle.
Yeah, these are nocturnes.
And this is 60 by 60. This is big.
Yeah, I started getting big again. Yeah, I used to paint really large, and then I stopped for a while, and now they're big again.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is part of the series Nocturnes, and it was right after Tiny Catastrophes.
Yeah.
And I was pretty disheartened with all the research I'd done about what's happening and what's going to happen, and overwhelmed by all of it. And I started thinking about what was our future, and thinking about what the world would look like without animals and humans on it, and imagining the world reclaiming itself, or the planet reclaiming itself and regrowing itself after we've destroyed it.
Oh boy.
And so this series of paintings is very shiny. They've got like layers
Lacquer.
and layers of lacquer on them, and it's so that the viewer is reflected in it. When you stand in front of these paintings, you're reflected. So there's this essence of the viewer in it, and the red sort of glowy things are love. They're basically animal and human spirit.
That's
And-
gone now off the planet.
Well, no, it's still
love
here.
is still here,
It
but the-
remains. Just our
Oh.
bodies aren't here anymore. So
That's
it's
heavy.
a post-human
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of idea.
Wow. Okay, and this one's called Night Garden.
Yeah.
So all the plants are gone now,
Well, all the humans are gone.
but the plants are still here.
Plants are coming back, yeah.
And the bugs, I'm sure, are coming
Yeah,
back.
hopefully.
The bugs are going to outlive us all, I swear. Did you ever see the Hellstrom Chronicle?
No.
We went there, my husband and I, unsuspecting, and it was all about how bugs are going to take over the world.
I've heard that, yeah.
And it really,
Could be.
it's a very good, it makes a good point.
Yeah, the ants, I read something recently, ants are... ants are
Mosquitoes have killed more people than anything else in the whole world.
well, we probably killed a lot of mosquitoes, too.
But they've killed a lot of people. I hope we've killed a lot of... Okay, this is called Breathing Lessons. This is a 30 by 30, not as big.
Yeah, that's not for sale. That's in my house. I love that painting.
Oh, well, tell us about it. Breathing Lessons.
Yeah.
You love it.
Yeah,
You're going
I
to
just-
keep it. You're never going to sell it.
No. I don't
It meant a
think
lot
so.
to you.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like it. It looks good in my house.
Not going to tell us about it. It's too
It's
personal.
not, yeah,
Okay.
it is pretty personal.
This is called Memory of Trees. There's some green in there.
Yep. There's like a memory of a tree in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, it's hard not to get depressed when...
I think it's pretty exciting. I mean, it's,
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard not to get depressed when you're the painter and you're thinking of these things. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
really, really...
it's dark. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it important to bring science and art together?
That's a really good question.
But that's what you do.
Yeah, well, I mean, curiosity drives most of us, right? As
Yeah.
artists. I mean, I think my mind is basically what drives me. And I used to joke, my daughter's in the audience, I used to joke when my kids were little that I was just going to be a biologist because being an artist was too hard. So I have an interest like in science, and I think being a biologist is pretty hard too. And my background,
Psychology you took.
yeah, but it was I was studying like neurobiology, and so I was more in the science side of
I
it,
see.
not in like the other. I don't know what it is, but yeah. So I've always had an interest in science, and I was interested in maybe becoming a marine biologist for a while. And as a kid, I've always, that's what kind of interested me, and so I draw from it to write about, to paint about.
Maybe you can't solve everything with science either. Maybe art helps
Exactly,
solve
yeah.
problems for the very reason that you talked about before, whereas when you get to a point where you're really stuck and you're stymied, sometimes things happen, and creativity can help solve problems.
Well, and it's also really, I mean, being in the studio is really similar to being in a lab as a scientist, right? Like, they make mistakes, they mess around with stuff, and like, usually, when you read about it, it's usually the mistake that ends up being something amazing, right? And the same in the studio. It's like, the thing we thought we screwed up often is the thing that's really great.
What remains in these imaginary landscapes is the dynamic and powerful spirit, love, represented by the hot red. We already knew that. But then you say, these nocturnes offer quiet times when we can hear and see and even say things that might not make sense in the day, but which carry the messages from the unconscious that may contain the answers we need and the nourishment we crave. I love that.
Thank you.
You're a good writer, and these are nuggets of wisdom on your website. I like your website a lot. If you
Not
want
many people read it, so it's really, I don't think many people read it.
well,
so
go
thank
read
you.
it. Go look up Michel Droge and look at the website. It's worth it. It's just really interesting. Okay, next series is called Navigation.
Nope.
Oh,
Hereth.
wait a minute. What did I do? I got it out of order. Okay.
That's okay. We can.
Oh, no, I just flipped the page too soon. I love this series, and this word I had never heard before. Hiereth. I don't know how you say it.
I say it Hereth, but
Hereth,
you might be right.
Okay, no. It means a longing for a place that's unreachable. I looked it up, but I had never heard it. Where'd you hear it? It's a Welsh term.
Yeah, it is a Welsh term. I am part Welsh, but I don't know where I heard it first.
I love the
Struck
idea.
me too.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a like longing for a home that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Which is, just an intense feeling that
Intense.
I think everybody probably has at some point.
Well, you did compare it to cycle of addiction, you said.
Yeah.
So that made it really interesting to me.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, because you want more of the drug because you want to feel a certain way. You can never quite reach that feeling.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is called Prophecy, and it's a sweater floating in the water. Do you want to say anything about it?
About this piece or
Yeah.
about the series?
Series, the whole
Piece.
series.
So, well, the sweater, this whole series I did speaks to addiction, opiate addiction in particular, and my brother died from an overdose, and I also have recovery of 20 years from addiction. So it's very personal work.
Wow. Thank you for telling us about that, because there is no one in this audience who hasn't known someone or hasn't had someone in the family who has been hurt by this. Yeah.
Well, that's why I've been showing it lately. I started this series in 2011, and I use a sweater as a metaphor for the family. So the sweater is an Aran sweater, an Irish sweater that's knit with a family pattern. Yeah. And addiction is a genetically transmitted disease, and it affects the whole family.
Sure.
So that's why the metaphor. And I started trying to unravel an Irish sweater, and I was going to unravel it, and at each stage of the unraveling, I was going to make a print from it, an embossing. And I found out I'm not a knitter, and I found out that they don't unravel because it's all knots, which that makes even more sense, right?
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to get it to unravel or to come undone. And so
that's funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's because it's a fisherman's sweater, and they don't want it to unravel.
They don't want it to unravel. But so I started making prints, and it turns out like the way this is kind of dark, but when you die from an overdose, it's very similar to dying as dying from drowning. And so the whole thing just made sense to use this as a metaphor. So there's a number of these prints, and I actually showed them in Machias last March and at the university, and did a community workshop, doing a papermaking workshop.
Was that the Recovery Through Art workshop?
Yeah.
That was so wonderful. You really give a lot back to the community.
Well, I feel like, especially with this work, that's the reason I made it, and that's the reason I'm showing it, is I feel like it can bring people together to break isolation and to like create community where people, just, I don't know, whatever happens, but to give back a little bit and make a space for people to heal, or to just like come together and not be alone in this, because like it's touching everybody, and it's a huge problem. So.
It's an epidemic in Maine.
Yeah, and being sober is a real gift. Like I'm lucky, and I'm grateful.
Wow.
And so I want to be able to share that somehow, and this is a good way to share it. So.
Really wonderful. What you said was, what I do with my work is shine a light on what's happening and find new ways to talk about it. Hopefully, this leads to new ideas and a stronger community, empathy, and compassion. How true. I think that's the base of where any change begins. That's really powerful. This is another sweater.
It's called Warrior, this one, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. These are cyanotypes, which ended up being a really great medium for this project, too.
So tell about how you do that.
So cyanotypes is a photographic process, and you coat the paper and then expose it to sunlight. So I would lay the sweater on top of the paper and then expose it to sunlight and then rinse it with water. So it has this sun water kind of
And the blue is good for the...
The blue is very nautical and also very spiritual. Like blue is a very spiritual color.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of history around that color. So yeah, it just all kind of made sense.
Okay, this is called Stonington. There's a boat underwater. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can. Can you?
And yeah, and then there's a net above it. The reflection of a net, I guess.
Yeah. I made it in Stonington.
You made it in Stonington,
Yeah.
so that's why you called it that. And this is called Lifeline. Again, that's a metaphor, right? It sounds like it.
Well, it sort of harks back to the Requiem series with the rope, you know, and the way that we tether and the way that we also get lost.
We can hang by it. We can, There's a lot. A rope has a lot of connotations, really.
Yeah.
You know, just like water does.
Yeah, it can hold us out, and it can hold us back, and it can also like keep us together.
Tethered and or keep us secure.
Yeah, it can save you.
It can save
Give
you.
Rescue.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, and this one's called Navigational Chart. It's an etching. And is this a metaphor for getting through addiction? A chart?
No, this is, well, you know, the maps, yeah. Is this part of that series?
Well, it did.
I think this is part of the navigation series.
Oh, dear.
Is it on, it might be, I don't know. It's sort of in the middle.
Okay. Yeah, because we come up next with the navigation series.
I think this is the beginning of the navigation work I was doing.
All right. Okay, I want to read one more quote from your really excellent, I don't know where I got this, but our lives filled with benign and mundane activities are sometimes fraught with unexpected events, tragic, traumatic, and mysterious. As we adjust to a new understanding of our world, the aftermath of trauma leaves an impression that steers us to a new awareness and an awakening of senses, leaving us at times in a state of disorientation and confusion. In this instance, we often experience a collateral beauty, unexpected abundance, and residual spiritual awareness. Very hopeful. It's a nice thought.
Thank you.
I like that. Well, this is the navigation series. And this is called Chemistry of Memory. I really like this painting. 60 by 60. And there are lines, you can see lines in the, can you see them? And other, almost net-like looking drawings in this, which is what makes it so interesting.
Thank you.
And now we can talk more about the sublime. You've brought that up before, and I want you to tell me, if you can, the difference between the feminine sublime and the regular sublime that Kant talked about, where he said things can be beautiful and terrifying at the same time, and that's kind of a whole picture of something. Yeah. Like the ocean can be beautiful, but it can also be terrifying.
Right, yeah.
So what is different? What is the feminine sublime? Just do your best, because I'd love to understand it.
Yeah, it's a constant, like, it's an interest, I guess.
Yeah,
for me.
You have a great interest in it.
Basically, from what I understand from reading what little is read about it and written about it, I think Barbara Freeman has written.
You should write about it. You should write.
Well, Barbara Freeman wrote a book called The Feminine Sublime, and I was reading it when I was writing my thesis in grad school, and she talks about the feminine sublime as being different from Kant or Burke's sublime in that instead of compartmentalizing it as, you know, person, spirit, you know, whatever, the sublime, this kind of like space, as kind of a space where one dives into the transitional, amorphous kind of place and stays there and doesn't try to define it. So like even by defining the feminine sublime, we're already making it the regular sublime. Yeah. So, I mean, but even by talking about the sublime, it's like it makes it non-existent. So
Because
really
it's happening between the object. Is it an object that is
No,
giving
it's
the
just-
sublime?
It's just a feeling.
It's a feeling.
It's a feeling. So I think that's why it's so hard to talk about. It's a space. It's a feeling. It's a lot of what you've read. The passages that you've picked off my website all kind of describe it in a way. It's like this time where things are undefined, unspeakable, unsayable, unknowable, and understanding that might be the most rich and fertile place to be, and finding a way to kind of be in that space is what's interesting about it. And I think that's my understanding of it, but I'm not an expert. Like,
Well, you're more of an expert than I am.
I don't know. I still am trying to understand like what
But
it is.
maybe you feel it.
Yeah, and I think as soon as you understand it, you completely annihilate it. So
One of those things.
that's actually a really good definition of it. We can't talk about it.
We won't go there. Okay, talk about, one thing you can talk about is these Polynesian stick.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah. Okay, tell us what these stick charts are.
Okay, so basically I was like, when I was studying climate change and looking at, how it was impacting the islands here in Maine, I was looking at other places and came across the Marshall Islands, which is considered the canary in the coal mine. And
Did you go there?
No, I wish.
It's down near Hawaii?
Yeah, it's in the Pacific.
Yeah. Volcanic.
Yes.
Islands.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
series of like over 500 islands, small islands.
So they'll be gone.
First. They're dealing with all the impacts of climate change right now, all the like storm surges, all the rising sea level, the changes in the ocean acidification, everything. And so at the same time, I was thinking, as I often do, about how we emotionally navigate this situation. How do we deal with it? How do we adapt? How do we just take in this information?
Right.
And the ancient people there, the indigenous people there, have had this way of mapping called Polynesian stick charts, and they're fairly well known. I think they have some at Harvard University in the museum there, and I saw a lot of pictures of them, and I was looking at them, and what they are is a very intuitive mapping system. And so a sailor would stand on, in the water and notice like how many currents in between them and the island that they were going to, and it was just a very intuitive form of mapping. And they would actually make the map out of sticks and cowrie shells, and then they wouldn't even take them on the boat. It was a very personal, like, just note-taking kind of thing. So I thought that was really interesting, and they're gorgeous. They're really beautiful to look at, and I started making drawings of them wherever I went. So I had a sketchbook, and wherever I went, I would sit and make a drawing, like a stick chart. And then I had a friend, and he said, why don't you just make stick charts? And so I actually started making some from the sticks in the land. I think I made my first one at Stonington. I was in a residency, and then I did some in Jefferson. And then I took that kind of idea of wayfinding to make these drawings on paintings, and then they kind of morphed into these grids.
I love them.
So the grids are sort of representing systems, and systems coming apart and systems being rebuilt. And, it's kind of the way I'm navigating my time on this planet right now, and understanding how we as communities and as a culture are navigating what's happening now.
Yeah.
So
it's fascinating. Okay, this is called Pleiades meteor showers. Is that it?
yeah,
Yeah, the clusters, the star clusters,
yeah. There's
the
actual,
seven sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I was looking at, so I started looking at other ways of navigation, star mapping, and star compasses and things like that. And I was looking at the constellations up in Jefferson, and a friend was helping me. Rachel might be here. Was helping me take pictures of the constellations, and yeah, so I was using them in the paintings as well. So it's kind of combining different kinds of navigation.
So cool. Have you ever done celestial navigation?
No,
On
but
your boat?
yes,
That's another.
using a star compass. Yeah.
This is beautiful. Remembering Tomorrow. I like the name.
Thank you.
60 by 72.
It's really lovely.
This is called Water Over the Bridge.
Yeah. Not under
Intuition
the
and
bridge.
spiritual quest. I don't know where I got that. Involves intuition and spiritual quest.
Yeah. Yeah, what is that?
I don't know. That's your work. This work places the viewer in the midst of global climate change and environmental upheaval. It's also steeped in the philosophy of the feminine sublime. An expansive, transformative, and sensory approach to the sublime. But we're not going to talk about it.
We already did.
Yeah.
We wrecked it.
We ruined it. Okay, now these are watercolors, and these are your daily practice.
Yeah.
And they're just charming. I just really love them. And these are small.
Yeah, they're really small.
And
except for one that's like 3 feet by 6 feet.
wow. Which one is that?
It's called Medusa's Gift. I don't know if you have it.
I don't have it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is called 12419. That's obviously the date.
The date. Yep.
8 inches by 10 inches. And I don't know, there's something so charming about them. And so you're just intuitively drawing these maps, are they? A little
They're kind of,
waypoints? Or?
I was interested in mycelium and mycorrhizae, like the fungus that grows underneath the soil that connects all the trees. And,
Yeah.
And I was also thinking about, I was looking at images of neurons and the way neurons connect and things like that. So, and stars and constellations, like all of those things. And
everything in the universe.
And then this friend of mine who lived in Italy decided to start making watercolors, and she asked me to try them out. Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll try them out. And so I started making these little drawings. And
beautiful paints. The colors are
gorgeous.
vivid.
It's Alina Gallo, and it's A Gallo colors. If anybody's interested in buying these, they're amazing.
I am.
But you can buy them, but honestly, she makes them and they go on sale, and you have to buy them like that day. Like they sell out in like an hour. Oh. And it's
well, you can help me get them.
Yeah, I can probably hook you up. Yeah.
Okay. Is she in Italy?
She is in Italy.
Oh.
She's in the CC, and she just had a baby actually. But she started, mixing in a mixing bowl in her house, and she uses natural pigment. And they're beautiful watercolors. They're gorgeous.
They are. I've seen them. You can see Michael's work at the Portland Art Gallery, where I show my work. That's how I've seen them, and they are gorgeous. All the paintings.
Thank you.
These included. These are very small.
Yeah.
And the other ones, of course, are large. Now this one's called Crazed Ceramic Shards. Do you make these paintings and then see what they look like to you and name them? That was my sense, but no.
This is actually a line from a poem by Joy Harjo, who's now our poet laureate.
Oh.
Our national poet laureate.
Crazed Ceramic Shards.
Yeah, she's an amazing poet. So a lot of, my morning practice is reading poetry, painting, kind of just doing whatever I want. And a lot of the times it's what I'm reading. So there's a lot of these, I was reading Staying with the Trouble by Donna Haraway.
Oh, this one coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, and so they're inspired by that and by poems or by a line in a song, kind of whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever I'm thinking about at the time.
Yeah. And some of them, they look like this is called Rabbit Dog Dream, and it looks like a rabbit and it looks like a dog running.
Yeah, it does. I think that's why I might have come up with that name after I made it.
And this is called Mermaid Skin.
Yeah, well, that's about a thing I found.
A thing you found?
Yeah.
While you were walking on the beach?
I found some mermaid skin. I did, really. I thought it was. It's actually bryozoan, and it's like the most beautiful but also disturbing thing. And it turns out it's an invasive species in Maine. And it was growing on a piece of kelp. And there were holes in it, and it was just It was in January when I found it, and I was like, "What is this?" And it looked like, like almost like chainmail, like like an armor, like a knight's armor, or like mermaid skin. And I was really struck by it, and took it home. Called Maine Gulf of Maine Research Institute, and they told me what it was.
They said, "Oh, it's not a good thing." Yeah.
But it looks a lot like what I was drawing, and a lot of the times, like, I'll have a session of drawing or painting, and I go outside, and there it is. Like, I see it outside, and it's just so. That was one of those moments.
Yeah. This is called Staying with the Trouble.
Yep.
And this last one's the bees in the snow that day, which I like because my husband used to keep bees.
Yeah, and then that they go in the snow.
Yeah.
Like it's in late winter.
Right.
And I didn't know this because I'm not a beekeeper, but I was outside at somebody's house, and we were snowshoeing, and we saw all these dead bees, and I was like, "Oh God, that doesn't look good." And it turns out it's just the way they clean the hives, right? So it was really a very sublime moment where you're like very drawn in and very like then also very like horrified. It's like,
well, you're studying mycorrhizae and mycelium. Reminds me that Andrew is going to get a movie called Fantastic Fungi in early December.
Yep.
Don't miss it. I haven't seen it yet. I can't wait to see it. But it's all about what goes on under the ground and all the connections with the roots and how trees talk to each other and they help each other and they keep each other healthy and they warn each other of danger. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to see that too. I guess I'm going to come up.
Come up here and I'll go with you. We'll go out to eat first.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. This is the most recent series called the Metamorphosis series.
Yep.
And you read Ovid.
Yeah.
Did you read all the books? 15?
I sort of read them and then paint and read and paint. But
Wow.
I had to translate them in high school. So we had to translate Ovid as part of my
Wow.
part of my childhood.
It's about transformation. Now this one is called When Cupid Went Crazy.
Yeah. Which he did, obviously.
And it's got some of the what do you call it? You call it the grid?
Yeah, I just call it grid work. It
Grid
kind
work.
of,
I love
mean,
it.
refers to like it's an abstract painting trope, from way back, like from the 50s and 60s, right? So
sometimes the whole painting will be in a grid.
Right. So it definitely references that. So I guess I could just call it grid work, but it's
So okay, and here's a detail of it.
Yes, oil on canvas.
Thank you. And this is 75 by 110. It's a beautiful painting. I've seen it placed in a home. It hasn't been bought yet, but it might soon be sold. But it's very beautiful. This is called Nereid's Lament. Nereids, were they the sea maidens?
Yeah, the sirens, yeah.
So why are they lamenting? Because of... Or you just felt like having them lament?
No, I mean, they were singing. They were like singing this sad song, and they were getting, So that's how they draw you in.
Here's a close-up.
Also, they were lamenting climate change. So those are barnacles.
That's the painting, and here's the close-up.
Yeah, they're lamenting what's happening.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes
but
sense.
In the story, they're singing sad songs to draw you in.
Right. I heard them once in the Hebrides.
Yeah.
I went between two islands and woo.
Yeah, you felt them?
I did.
Wow, that's so cool.
I know. This is called If April. If April.
If we make
it.
Yeah.
Oh.
If April.
There's.
But April's always like that. I mean, like what? Who's the poet? T.S. Eliot. April is, proof rocks. April is the coolest month.
Right.
Yeah, and it really is. It's horrible. It's also the month I got sober, so there's that.
Oh, hey, that's a good thing. Yay for you. You get extra points. This is called Phaethon's Desire. and I couldn't remember who Phaethon was, but he was trying to drive the sun chariot. But
Right, yeah.
Zeus
Yep.
caught him before he burnt up the earth because he couldn't
Well,
control the
he
horses.
caused a lot of problems, so
Yeah.
yeah, they went off the rails. Yeah. Just headstrong, had to do it.
Had to try it.
Yeah.
Well, he
looked
gets a
easy.
point. So that is the last one in the Metamorphosis series, but I have another one coming up, your brand new painting,
Yeah, not
which I think
maybe
is
not
finished.
done. Maybe not.
Oh, look at that.
That's huge too. That's like 10 feet by 12, 8 feet by 12 feet, I think.
Woo! It's gorgeous. It has so much going on.
I think it's done. I don't know. Maybe not.
Oh, it's lovely. And it's also kind of frightening. There's something frightening about it.
The world is melting.
Yeah. It's all the tumult that
I guess.
and
It's the beginning of a series that I think is about romantic love.
Oh.
So I don't think it's as dark as it sounds.
well, hey, romantic love can be
About
very
the
dark at
about
times.
the gods and the goddesses. So like all the different
Okay.
stories that are
Well, there's a lot
in
of darkness
mythology.
there,
Yeah, a lot of destruction.
Yeah.
With romantic love too.
Sure.
A lot of creation, a lot of destruction. So.
Like all good things. Okay. I want to. Now we're just at 8 o'clock. Time for questions.
Awesome.
Damon, can we turn up the? Oh, yes, you did it.
Hey.
Please give Damon a hand. He did all these. He helped us put all these on the screen.
Yay, Dahmen.
Damon Liebert. He is our tech guy. He's really good.
Wow. Thanks
So do
for
we have
coming,
questions?
everybody.
Here's one.
Where do you work typically?
Where do you work typically?
Do you have a workshop somewhere?
Oh, yeah, I have a studio in Portland. Yeah, in the Bakery Studios building on Pleasant Street.
Do you show your work there, or
No, right now I'm represented by Portland Art Gallery. I showed at Cove Street. I have a show coming up at Speedwell. I'm in a group show there.
Can
kind
people
of-
go to your studio? Or would you rather not?
If they contact me, I do studio visits.
Okay.
Yeah. I also am sharing a studio up in Brunswick right now, so I've got bigger space in Fort Andros. So yeah, but people can come by. They just have to contact first. 'Cause I also work like 12 jobs, so like most artists.
She's a busy one. Yes.
The background there looks like almost like screening. Do you paint that in, or is that something that you use to create that background?
People keep asking me that. I showed this at a talk last Wednesday, and people asked me how I got that. Yeah, I paint it. That's all I'm telling you.
Maybe she paints it
Sometimes,
putting.
yeah. I just conjure it.
Here's one.
so the phrase collateral beauty is really kind of intriguing. Could you say a little bit about that?
Well, it was really, I took it directly from that phrase, collateral damage. So, but I think collateral beauty is also a more hopeful way of thinking about trauma and damage of any kind. That there's also like, I think that it's interesting how some of the darkest things can be the most beautiful things too. So that's collateral beauty. It's like accidental. Does that help? Does that make sense?
It could have so many connotations.
Like what?
I don't know. You were talking about accidents in art.
Yeah.
That's sort of another sense of it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, just it's sort of the byproduct, I guess.
It's unlooked for.
Excuse me?
It's unlooked for.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Serendipitous.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times I'll paint without looking.
Really?
Yeah.
Sometimes I paint upside down
Yeah, I
because
get
it
that.
helps free you up. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah. Or with your left hand if you're
Yes,
right-handed.
yeah.
All
So
those-
in that way, it's like the unexpected is often what's the most interesting.
Right, you can get too slick with doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, yeah, it's ways to change it up. But yeah.
Over here.
Do you stretch your own canvas?
Do you stretch your own canvas?
8 by 10 foot canvas.
I get help, yeah. I have stretched a couple of them, but with friends, like with help. And recently I have been employing people to do it for me. There's a really great guy in, so sometimes like in my studio in Portland, it's too small to get these paintings in and out. And so I stretch them on the wall and paint on the wall. And then I roll them up and bring them to this guy in Brunswick at Fort Andros. Josh, what's his last name?
Monahan?
Monahan,
Yeah.
yeah. And he's been stretching for me
Oh,
lately.
I'm so
He's
glad to
great.
know he will do that.
Yeah, so he'll stretch them. He's really great. And he also now is building them for me before I paint them. So
Now you've got
Yeah.
a big enough studio at Andros Mill.
yeah, in Fort Andros I can do that.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
yeah.
Those things are important. And you like to do all your preparation, I read, because you're thinking about it. It's the process that's important to you.
Yeah, so even the ones that Josh is making for me now, I do layers of gesso. I do 6 to 10 layers of gesso and sand in between, yeah. Because my surface is important. And he could do it for me, and it wouldn't be that expensive, but the experience of like kind of connecting with the medium is important before I start working.
Have you ever used rabbit skin glue?
No,
No,
I'm a
stinky.
Yeah, I
I have
try
never
to take
used
care of the animals as much as possible.
it. Oh, well.
I
that's
guess
a
they
good-
make some synthetic stuff too,
Oh.
but I don't know. No.
Yeah.
I'm not very trained.
Not
like-
trained.
Like, I don't know how to do that.
Oh, well, I don't either.
So-
But, I mean, there are books on it if you
Yeah.
wanted to do it.
Nah,
but,
I'm good.
yeah. Gesso's good. Gesso's really good.
Gesso works fine for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
But 7 layers is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you sand it in between.
Yep.
And what kind of paints do you use?
Oils. Like, you
Different
mean what
brands?
brand?
Or
Yeah, different brands for
The
different
color,
colors.
yeah.
There's one like cheap brand I use for my cadmium red, which is like the best red, and they don't make it anymore, so I have to buy it like on eBay or something. But yeah, just
what's your favorite paint store? Where do you go get your supplies?
plug. I get it. I mostly go to Artists and Craftsmen.
Yeah, I love that place.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, in
and whatever
Portland.
you don't have, they will buy, and they're
very
super nice. Like you
Oh.
walk in, they're like famous. They're like, hey.
Oh, they're so nice.
It's
I
like
went
Cheers,
in there
right?
one day. It's a Cheers of the art world.
Yeah.
I went in there one day and I forgot a couple of things, and I called them up to see because I had paid for them.
Yeah.
Oh, you're the one who left those. We'll send them to you, they said. Can you
Oh,
believe
wow,
it?
that's
And I,
so
I said,
nice.
okay, I'll pay you. Oh, no, you don't have to pay us. I thought, well, I'm
Wow.
going to do that all the time. I don't have to lug everything home.
Yeah, right? No, they're amazing there. And
No, really nice.
if you have questions about how different things work, they'll let you know if they know, and sit there and talk shop with you and procrastinate as long as you want.
We have a good art store right here in town, too.
Yeah.
When you move up to this area.
Yeah, I'll be here soon. So I love it up here.
Yeah, that's great. Any other questions? Oh, right here. This is Emily, my daughter.
Oh, hi, Emily. Nice to meet you.
So when you're working on an 8 by 10 style painting like this, I mean, you work on several things at once and keep coming back to it, or do you kind of be like, here's the idea, and you go from, you just do it till it's done?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I never know what something's going to look like. It's much more. I'm much more process based, and I feel like if I know what it's going to look like, I probably shouldn't do it. So they take a long time. They're like 6 months. This one I've been working on since probably May or April or May. And
Do you work on one and then go to another and then they inform each other as you're working on them?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And preferably I'm working on like 5 or 6 pieces at once. Like that's ideal for me is,
Yeah,
that many.
they help each other.
Yeah.
You go in one day and you think, well, that one looks the best.
Yeah.
These others have got to come up to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I'll do something on one and then I'll do it to all of them.
Oh, assembly line, huh?
Like, that's cool. Keep doing it.
Yeah, no, they don't. They're beautiful paintings. I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
you came and
Thank
gave us
you.
this interesting evening.
Thank
Really,
you.
really
Thanks for having
fascinating.
me. Thanks for everybody for coming out.
Thank you.